like shaking things up a little bit. So I mean, I'd be willing to go on trustees as well, so.
I'm fine with either one of you
I
guys.
think that would be great.
Perfect. Yep. And
Working on everything. So fast.
then we've got, what do we got? Conservation, library.
Library, historic,
I would be interested in library if no one else is.
That's fine. And I'd be interested in historic, if that would work.
you took CIP, sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And what did you say, Dan? It's historic?
Yeah, if everybody is good with that, yeah. Then that leaves meeting house and museum.
I'd like to get off conservation only because, what I won't say, I'll take meeting house. If
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm good with that. So then it leaves museum and conservation. Katie, your choice.
I'll do conservation.
Okay,
We change these every year potentially?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, because every time assuming we get a new selectman every year, so,
okay.
we can change it anytime, actually, but.
so I'll do museum, historic and planning.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I'll get a copy of that before we leave tonight. I'll just
Okay.
make some notes off yours.
Okay.
Nice.
Can you send out a note to each of the committees that the changes?
Yes.
As well, so.
Thank you.
So we've got minutes for March 7th meeting. To approve, Dan, you had one change, I believe.
Yeah, on 6D. It states that Selectman Collins stated that he had contacted the Mascoma Community Health Center to inquire if the facility might be coming available. And that, however, I can see how Roger might have heard that way, but what actually took place is I discussed that in the group that I set on for review of town properties. So that just needs to be changed. And then other than that, I didn't see anything. I don't know if you
Did
guys
have a
did.
chance to look at it, or,
I did read it.
I didn't see anything else. Do we have a motion to approve as amended?
Yeah, I'll put a motion to approve as amended. Please.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Am I allowed to vote or should I?
You can.
abstain?
Yes.
You could. yes,
Okay.
but-
Yeah, you were here though, right?
but you
Okay.
kept it as well, if you- So we'll sign those on the amended copy.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Mhm. So you'll just leave that in our box in the office and we'll sign.
It'll
it
be in
then?
the regular signing tray.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, yep. Okay.
Next item is appointment of a welfare administrator. The town voted to change that from an elected position to an appointed position. And I believe Monica is wanting to continue that position for us.
Yeah.
Correct?
I highly recommend Monica for that position.
So do I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion on that?
I would put a motion in that we hire Monica Rowe as, what is the correct terminology for your position? It's not welfare administrator, correct?
Human Service Director.
For a human service director.
Second for that?
I'm going to put a slash in the minutes there where it says both things, because the last the town meeting vote that voted to change it had welfare director, so I'm just gonna want to make
Okay.
sure that it's
So maybe it's, well, human
Yeah.
resource director slash
Slash
welfare director.
director as.
Yeah.
You know, blah, 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 for the minutes.
Are you-
I'll second that. Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye,
Thank you, Monica, and welcome
thank you.
officially.
Thank you.
Continuing it, I will say that, we've been very impressed with how you've taken that department and moved it forward, so I know I am appreciative of it.
Very much so.
Thank you. Can I ask a question about the
Yes.
position? When someone comes to you for assistance and you refer them to one of the agencies that we have our petition warrant articles, do you keep track of what the person had requested and then how much the town actually expended because of those agencies' help? Yes. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
And which agencies don't help us as well.
I would just say real quickly, just same thing that Stephen said. I know what was happening in that department when I first started, and the difference between then and now is incredibly like night and day. So thanks for your hard work. Thank you. Saving us all a bunch of money. Yep.
Mark, can you sign in, please? There's a
It's on the back
It's on the
table.
back table there. Thank you.
Yeah, way out.
Next up is a appointment to the Capital Improvement Program Committee. Claude, do you have a recommendation there?
Yes, can I discuss the membership for a moment?
Yes.
I have here the text of the town warrant in March 2004 that established CIP. And it says, to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to appoint a capital improvement program committee, with which shall include at least one member of the planning board and may include, but not be limited to, other members of the planning board, the budget committee, or the board of selectmen, and so on. And it goes on to describe the purpose of the committee. Point of it being that, according to the warrant article, you three appoint representatives to the CIP committee. You've just appointed Sadie tonight as your own representative, which, by the way, I strongly endorse because of her long years of experience doing that and her great aptitude for it. As far as the other openings, when I asked Ned to put this on the agenda a little more than a week ago, I was under the impression that the budget committee might not meet till months from now. And the CIP committee wants to start in April this year, which is much earlier than normal. For a couple of reasons. One reason is because we experienced a couple of issues last year, for the first year that I've been around, that we want to have time to avoid. The second reason is we have some improvements in mind to the CIP process. Ned and I at least have improvements in mind. And it might require a little extra time, a little earlier in the cycle to put those improvements in place. So I felt we couldn't wait till the budget committee meets in whenever, June, July, August.
I agree.
Came to my attention yesterday, or no, this morning, the budget committee may meet on March 30th. I just wanted, but I didn't know that till this morning.
Yeah.
That aside, let's say the budget committee doesn't meet for a while. So according to the warrant article, still, you guys appoint the membership. You might want their recommendation, but I don't know how you'd get that until they meet. I'm here to suggest or recommend Sal Percia as the representative from the budget committee to the CIP committee. You guys can do what you want. You can ask the budget committee for their recommendation if they meet soon enough, but understand our intent to start in April.
Yeah.
And if everybody in the room feels it's appropriate, you could appoint, according to the warrant article anyway, you could appoint Sal tonight. But I don't know how you feel about that. You guys can talk about it. What I mean is not having talked to the rest of the budget committee. That's pretty much up to you guys. And that's my recommendation and a little background behind it.
Okay. So Sal's, attended almost all the CIP meetings. My
I
understanding
would
was
say,
last
yeah,
year.
he did. He attended
As well.
almost all, if not all, and demonstrated an aptitude.
Yeah.
And he contributed and demonstrated, in my opinion, an aptitude for
Adding on.
that kind of financial planning.
I do know the budget committee is planning on meeting next week as well, to reorganize their board, because Dave stepped up, his term was done because he replaced me, so they gotta get a chairman and stuff like that, so.
Right.
I honestly don't have a problem with Sal being on it at all, so. But anybody want to make a motion on that?
Do we have a question? I think.
I just had a question on that. Sorry, is there a max number of people that we have on that?
On the CIP committee?
Yeah.
No, there isn't.
I believe that it's 3, but the warrant article said that an unlimited number of planning board.
Well, the warrant article didn't say maximum, it didn't say unlimited. It simply said, again, at least one member of the planning board. And may include, but not be limited to, other members of the planning board, the budget committee, or the board of selectmen.
But those meetings are
So it
public.
does
and
not
they're
put
posted.
I'm sorry, it does not expressly put a limit on the number of people. It does not say unlimited. On the other hand, we don't want to have whatever. That's what it says.
I mean, in my opinion, if you feel you can contribute to it, the more voices, the better. And I don't see a problem with adding more people if that's, that's a.
I see it to a certain extent. And I say to a certain extent, because over the last couple of years, I've sat on a couple subcommittees and the other, and honestly, sometimes I think you need enough people to make everyone's voice heard, but when you get too many people and too many different ideas, things get muddy and things just don't get done. So I'm all about having enough people where people are comfortable that their voices are being heard. But to leave just, in my opinion, to leave it just open-ended and we can have 20 people sitting on the CIP committee, I don't think you're gonna get anything done.
And also last year, we spent probably 40 hours on the committee of work that we put into it, and it was mostly during the day, so that can be a difficult time coming in.
So one more comment in that regard, then we have had 4 people in the last few years, which has not been a problem. We've had planning board, select board, budget committee, and a citizen representative. That's 4. In theory, you could end up in a tie vote on something 2-2, right? There's no tiebreaker there. So maybe 4 is not ideal. Now, we never had a problem. We seem to almost always come to agreement on everything.
Right.
But a 5th person would not be out of line. I agree with Dan. You had 10 or 12, it'd be almost impossible to get anything done.
What were your thoughts, Hugh, on the question?
Me being done right now, I don't need another job in this town, but I'm involved in a lot of stuff and I've seen a lot of the shortfalls in the planning with. Even before some of the inflation of just knowing what the money's worth and the budgetary experience that I have. So I may try to see if I can work a deal with Bob to slide over to these. And then get going, so. And we've got some big purchases in town coming up and some big plannings coming up in town and. We can't be having these purchases rest on one person's shoulders on this type of money that we're gonna be spending either, so.
So what do you mean rest on one person's shoulders?
We can't just have it rest on say a department head when we're starting to talk. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for purchases and planning on that either.
Right. No, I agree. That's and I will tell you from being on the CIP, we had some pretty lengthy discussions. So just to set, if it does at all, to set you at ease, you know, we didn't just take recommendations and put them in stone. And I know myself personally made a lot of phone calls and talked to a lot of different people in different fields. So just so you know, from me, I didn't just go with one person's recommendations, right? But I see what you're saying. I'm with you. So.
I mean, let's go back to Sal being on there first and so we.
I'll move that we appoint Sal as a budget committee member to the CIP.
I would say, yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sal.
You good with that, Seth?
Yeah, I'm good with
I guess
that.
we should ask you.
I think, no, I am, I'm, Claude and I always talked about it, so I think.
I asked Sal before I recommended him.
Blindside me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't want to blindside, right?
But just a couple of things on the discussion that just went on.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, I obviously attended every CI, almost every one but one, I think.
Yeah.
And I never felt like I couldn't put my 2 cents in.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah.
Anybody can come to those meetings, but I also think that Claude has a point that 5 might be a better number than 4. Just,
I mean,
to settle any, problems you might have that way. So if you wanted to expand it to a 5th person, that would be something that I would say is probably a good idea.
okay.
I don't know if we ever really voted. Did we vote?
On what?
When we were putting that together? It
Well,
was a discussion.
We didn't,
I know that
we never really had,
We don't-
there was never really an actual vote that I noticed.
We don't, you're right.
Agreement.
On the other hand, if we ever had a disagreement,
Right.
2 and 2, I feel like it could come to an impasse perhaps,
Yeah.
in theory. It never has happened. It's been very cordial committee. We've been able to work everything out, but whatever, again, I want to say 5 is not a bad number to have on a committee. You don't want 10. I don't think.
I know.
Maybe that's the budget committee's problem. They got 10.
I second that. All in favor? Yeah. Is that something we want to kind of chat about?
Yeah,
Okay, we'll put some time.
thanks
into
you. I appreciate the input. So.
Yeah.
Next is the appointment to the Board of Adjustments and John Bergeron.
Yep.
There you are. Thank you.
We've got one resignation. Jim Lackman wants to resign, and Tim Josephson is willing to step in as a replacement. And then there's 3 other people. You got the memo in your hand. I got I got it here. Sorry. And they're willing to sign up for another 3 years. So Mike Roy, George Foley, would like to continue for 3 years there. A 3-year term, they're already on it, so it's replacing one person who's resigning.
Yep.
With Tim Josephson. And renewing the terms of 2 other people.
Thanks. Any comments on that?
No, I read all of this and it all makes sense to me.
No. Do we need a motion on that?
Yes.
Motion.
Move that we take John's recommendations.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Next up is the Upper Valley Humane Society proposal for animal control in town. I read through this, Ned, I just had a question. Do you know how this, I asked before, but we don't know how it reflects to last year's contract?
I believe it's very similar to last year's contract, if not exactly the same. I believe the costs have gone up $5 an animal.
Okay.
And we do have some money in the budget for this.
Do we know how much we spent on animal control last year for? I know we changed the process last year, so
Yeah, yeah.
we did it per incident instead of a flat rate, so.
Yeah.
Traditionally, we got a contract. It's by
We have to think about where that might be.
So if you can find that out, and then if you can dig out last year's contract, just so we compare prices.
Okay.
Okay. Come back, so. Revisit that.
That works for me. I don't think it's anything all that great of a difference, but I would like to kind of compare so I can make sure there's nothing crazy in there.
So generally, it was picked up by the police department, so chief might have that, Ryan might have that information, so
Get all for the next meeting.
thank you. Next is the approval bid for 2 window replacements on the Historical Society building, the meeting house facing the lake. Total is $52.80. I don't know how that, again, I don't know how that compares to the other window replacement we have. I know it's a process and, it sounds a bit outrageous, but it's all custom work.
Yeah, it's the nature of the 12 by 12 antique
Yeah.
windows. Most of it is the finding the glass, the little panes of glass, because it's that antique float glass that's harder and harder to find.
It comes from Germany.
Well, actually, they're trying to find it from like Vermont Salvage and places like that, and they've cut it down. It just ends up being expensive regardless of where you get it from.
Yeah.
These are also related to the 2, these are broken, I'll say broken windows.
Right.
The windows are,
Right, the actual wood sash themselves.
yeah, they could sort of, I'll say nailed shutter.
Yeah.
And some of the glass is, I would have said broken or not appropriately replaced.
And he's done all the work before, John, do you know that?
Yeah, he's done work on the museum, so all the windows in the museum were done by him.
Okay.
I think that Dave's Glass Barn started this project and then retired a few years ago. And there are funds, right? Their meeting house has funds that pays
Yeah.
for this.
Yes.
Okay,
I'll see.
and who can approve to withdraw that from that capital or that it's held with the trustee of trust funds? Can the select board approve to expend
I
that?
believe so.
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Do we have to have a separate,
We need a vote to say they're authorized to expend these funds.
so it's separate from this? So we vote to say the proposal, okay, and then we have another,
It can do all together at one time.
we have a motion on that?
I'll move that we do this. If they're broken, we need to get them solved.
Yeah. I would second the motion. So the motion is that we accept the proposal and remove the funds for payment. Right?
And Dan, can you tell me the approximate balance in that account right now?
I wish I could. I know it's more than that. I would say it's probably in the,
Is it,
I want to say 12,000 range, something like that.
I'm gonna think it's maybe around 15, it's in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
It's in the teens,
yeah.
it's, oh, okay.
Who said, what did you say, John?
it's in the teens, probably low teens, mid-teens, somewhere around there.
all in favor for that?
Aye.
Approved.
One of the key things is getting on their schedule, because
Yeah,
I would say it'll be August,
I'm sure.
yeah, something like that.
I'm sure.
Okay, for other business, is Rachel coming in for the?
No, she works evenings, so she won't be here.
Okay,
The recreation, or the recreation department, meaning Rachel, got 2 grants, one from the Skoma Bank Foundation, one from the Williams Field Foundation. And the $2,500 each, and they can use that $5,000 plus some other local funds to refurbish and rehabilitate the infield of the softball field. They're gonna get the appropriate soft, I'll say softer material, not bank run gravel that's in there now.
Yeah.
Some of the material that's in the infield now that's, I'll say appropriate or okay, will be moved back to a warning track. They'll be set up along the fence line, and then there'll be some additional refurbishment on the sidelines,
and this covers the entire cost,
the entire cost.
because I heard from Bob that we might be hauling the material.
Yes, we'll be hauling, okay, that's not the full cost. The highway department will be hauling from the material from Hennecker.
Okay,
So I'll be curious, how many loads? Like,
I have to say, it should be damn few for our
Right,
trucks.
but you should be able to, I would think that they would know approximately how many yards they're gonna be replacing.
There.
seven
It does in
truckloads,
here
it says
with-
7 truckloads, but
Where does it say that?
under materials.
Oh. Depending on the size, so is that 7-10 wheeler load you think it'll take to fill that in, Wes?
I have no idea. I actually had a question on this.
On some, okay, well,
If
Yeah, you go ahead.
I have no problem with doing this, and I don't wanna sound like whatever, but us using the town trucks to haul this stuff, you gotta go to Hooksett to get it,
right,
number one. And number two, we have enough work on our roads and everything else that we gotta do in town. I don't believe we should be hauling it with the town truck.
Yeah,
They should be able to find people to donate. And I know that the softball league has some money in a checking account.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was involved with it last year. I'm no longer involved in it, but I know what's in the checkbook.
right.
So I just feel that I don't believe we should be using town trucks, especially 6-wheelers to go to Hooksett. It doesn't make sense.
well, I mean, it says 7 truckloads, it doesn't really say what size truck, so I mean, and I don't know what the cost of driving from here to Hennecker back is in a truck, so.
Right, I think we got enough work on the roads, we shouldn't be taking the town guys to do something like that. That's just my personal opinion.
When are they wanting this project to be done? Does it say on here? I mean, I read it, and I thought I read it pretty well, but I didn't.
I would assume
That's a
prior
date.
to the start of season.
Right. When does the softball season usually start, Wes?
After school.
Yeah.
All right, so June,
Yeah, they say hopefully, they wanna say, they said hopefully beginning of May.
Right.
okay.
It's on the back under completion.
I'll get with Bob and see what the cost of us doing it.
I think we
For a
have to
man and a
consider,
truck and
yeah, the
all
cost of them not working, the cost of the wear and tear on the truck.
I just don't think it's a good idea.
I hear what you're saying, I'm not disputing you, I just. Go ahead, Phil.
Just a couple of points of information. They're calling 7 loads at 23 ton. So there's no way the town can put 23 ton on their trucks.
Okay,
So you're looking at 8 or 9 loads and you're probably talking 3+ hours.
okay. So that's a half a week.
Yeah, because the 23 tons, they're figuring dry axle, we have a 10 weight.
Right,
So
You're
it
probably
could be-
right.
so you're
it could
thinking
be
closer to 9,
15,
9 to
it could
10?
be Between 15, you shouldn't be more than probably 18 unless they're certified overloaded.
So exactly, you're putting about 16 ton hauls pretty decently. Yeah,
Part of the bid is the cost of trucking it here with the material from folks that was cost prohibitive.
It's
So,
not Hooksett, it's Hennecker.
Hennecker, excuse me, Hennecker.
And the Hennecker is the only place we can get this material as well.
Yeah,
161 ton. So we're looking at more like 10,
10 months.
yeah.
At least 3 hours, probably 4, it's probably 4 hours.
I'd say it's 4 hours per run.
To run the load
Yeah.
every day, so. You're
So-
talking a full week of somebody doing it.
Right.
Okay.
And, you know, $500 worth of fuel probably. I would have to guess you run that truck all day, every day for 5 days, probably gonna be $400 or $500 worth of fuel, wouldn't it? Or am I
More
on?
than that,
3 miles.
but 10-wheelers going for over $100 an hour.
Yeah, right, I know.
Fuel.
Fuel.
Yeah, but you got wear and tear in the truck. You can't-
No, I understand, but was just for examples, trying to figure out how much, break it down and see how much each piece is gonna cost us, and if we're spending, you know, if we're gonna spend $500 or $600 on fuel, and then it's the driver, so,
The-
yeah,
The average rate of a truck is $120 an hour.
so.
No matter how you figure it, our trucks will be worth that. You gotta pay the driver, you gotta match everything. So you just figure $120 an hour, $130 an hour, you gotta be close.
What I will tell you, one of the things that we've been talking about lately is the fact that we might not be here to actually make money on some things and to make a profit, but we're not here as a charity case and lose money either. So if we can at least cover the town's expenses on some of the things that we're doing around here, then we need to rethink. And I think that's a general consensus. I will talk only for myself right now, but I tell you, that's a chat we've been having a lot lately. So I know when I was sitting out there where you guys were, that's something I would want to know. So, but yeah, I think we definitely just need to put a little thought process into this here.
I agree with that too. I think it's a worthwhile cause. I mean, we have a lot of people that come here to play softball, and we have a lot of tournaments and where people come in. I mean, is there funds in recreation that we could contribute to the cost of them or no? I mean, there's
Not
nothing.
really.
No, I don't think there's much in the recreation, but is there maybe around $6,000 if that?
So, I mean, I think that what we need to do is get a hard cost on
Mhm.
us running a truck for a week with a person and on fuel and everything else and taking him out of our, doing our work. Yeah, Mark.
Is anybody opposed to Williams Foundation?
Well, so they're already putting in one of the grants to it, so.
Yeah.
I mean, that may be that we go back to them and say, hey, this is what, it's gonna cost us another $5,000 just to get the material here, so, I mean, I don't know what the number is, but.
I am just gonna speak on it while we're sitting here, and then I'm up for chatting with you guys and figuring out a consensus as a whole. But I personally don't think that it's a good idea to use our guys and our trucks to drive all the way there and back and haul those trucks. I mean, we're just now getting our trucks maintained to the point where we can use them on our own roads. And we start hauling these ill-maintained, hanging on by a thread, transmission blowing, tire blowing trucks there and back. That's a lot when these trucks are used to doing, 30 miles an hour on average. And then that's my thoughts, but
Hold on, just,
It just occurred to me at the beginning of the conversation, we were saying that the amount in the grants covered the whole thing. And obviously we evolved. Would appear to me that perhaps the person asking for the grants didn't include the entire magnitude of the project. And perhaps we could, like you indicated, maybe go back to the people with the grant and let them know that there's a shortfall, it's a deficit.
right, they missed a little something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They may be, sure, maybe,
They made an assumption, which was,
it's worth the question.
Right.
Yeah.
they made an assumption that they were gonna use town trucks, that
Yeah.
basically what they're trying.
right, go ahead.
Then have the softball checkbook to pay for it themselves.
No, but there's money there that they can help with.
Mark, go ahead. We're gonna need to find out how much it's gonna cost too.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're talking about the cost of the truck going down there and back, and we're talking about ill maintenance. I mean, how much is it gonna cost to unload a truck that's full of with fill and break down and have to get towed back to town? And
Absolutely, yeah,
that's a huge amount of cost.
Yeah. yeah, all good points.
Yep,
Okay,
nope, appreciate it.
so, no motion on that. Where are we at? Anything else on Williams Field? Thank you for your input, appreciate it.
Yep.
Transfer station,
The transfer station, we got one response to our RFP for the transfer station, and it was a very nice, no, thank you. And it's in the bag, handed out to everyone. The the gentleman, John Pellerin,
Pellerin.
Tom Pellerin,
Mhm.
offered to help us get our transfer station straightened out. There's grants and other stuff that we've been pursuing. I suggested from this, Dan and I spoke about this briefly this afternoon also, about getting together a list of all the grants that are out there, the time period, maximum amounts, and just start applying for some of them.
Yep.
And going with that, Dan also asked me to call the municipal association. They do not do grant writings, but they will get me some financial information on grants and things like that, what they have.
Okay.
I think they'll find the same thing. I'm asking to report back to the next meeting and in the interim, apply for some, or at least start the application for one grant that's in for recycling and probably has a maximum of 2 or 3 grants. So we'll get what we can get and go from there.
Okay. You were over there today for quite a while and
Yeah, so
diving in.
yes, the trailer that's being fixed right now, do we have an estimation of when that's going to be available? Because the current setup is not ideal. And we've had, JR reported that we've had 2 residents that have fallen by heaving their trash up and over, so
I don't know about the trailer guy. England, the mechanic will be back here later for his 6-month review, so we can ask him then. I know he was moving the trailer yesterday to get it so that he could weld the bracket, the frame that the door actually goes on to the back of the trailer, so hopefully, I would say not long. I was hoping that we'd be ready this week.
So, I mean, that obviously doesn't solve all our problems.
No,
no.
The way the setup of the trailer is right now, that we're putting trash in, that I think we will want to put recycling in at least the short term.
right,
We need to have that situation addressed as well. I know Bob and the town crew did a nice job over there, trying to get some fill in over there and get that leveled out and get a ramp and get us, so we had something. And I
right,
appreciate that, but you know, to Sadie's point, you know, it's a 2 or 3 foot step up to that trash, and we had an employee there helping throw trash into it. He was on vacation last week and nobody stepped in to help take that space. So, you know, we've got a dangerous situation over there, and so,
I was there on Saturday and Fred Hammond was helping throw trash.
yeah, I just learned about that tonight, so.
Yeah.
Dan, so I was not aware of that. I don't think anybody in the town was aware of that, so. Go ahead, Wes.
So. Why couldn't you open the door on the trailer? Back it up to the compactor. Throw the stuff in the compactor. When it gets to the front of the trailer. I don't know, maybe take the excavator, back it down a little bit, put some more in it, pack it down. It's gonna do the same thing. Except you might have some trash you gotta clean up when you go to close the door, but it's.
What? Wesley, I said the same thing about the old trailer. We were using it before we got the new one. Why can't we just back the old trailer up to it and run it like we did before?
I'm just.
So I don't know the logistics, but I think it hooks onto the compactor.
It's not, it doesn't matter if it hooks on. So
Well, if you're compacting, you'll just push the
it's
trailer.
not gonna compact. You're not compacting it the way you're doing it
Well,
now.
I know that, but
No, it's an open top.
Safety wise, if you open the door up and you just back the trailer up with the door open. Just throw the trash down into the hopper like you do now. And just let it run, just let it keep running. It'll take a long time for that to push to the front. And then when it'll pack a little bit, but it's not gonna push the truck, it's gonna push the stuff up. Because it's got nothing holding it up. So it's gonna push the stuff up instead of pushing the truck. And then you can take the excavator, you gotta smash it down somehow now, I'm assuming. You take whatever and smash it down. And then you don't have any trip hazards, any fall hazards, and it's easy for the people to put
Are
their
you
stuff.
talking about the one that they're using right now, or the one that's getting
The one that
fixed?
you're using right now.
Cause I asked JR, he said that would not work.
It's
with the
because you don't
compactor.
wanna clean the mess up. Unfortunately, you are gonna have a mess when you pull the trailer forward. I'm not gonna lie to you. It is gonna, but you got equipment that you can throw the stuff into and work, through it, well, you got the time. It can be done. I know it can be done. That's what I would suggest. But, I mean, I kind of work with this stuff every day, so,
Mark, I think Hugh had his hand up first, so just, no,
No, go ahead.
okay, go ahead, Mark.
What if they had the loader over there and they could throw their trash into the loader and then dump the loader into the.
I don't know if JR is allowed to use the loader, so we're taking
Well,
a down for that.
No, but you can pay a highway guy.
Didn't we
Volunteers for that.
just heard our roads need help.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think if we're gonna try to look at applying for grants and maybe getting some better long-term solutions, that we might want to consult with some people on changing the flow of it. I know that we have someone in town who has a resource that's offered that to us. I think we should try to take advantage of that. I don't.
That's one of the things I
Yeah.
spoke with Ned about this afternoon, and I chatted with Stephen real quick once we got here. I think it's a mess, and it has been, and now we're at the point where somebody's gonna get hurt, right, or something. So, does it make sense to change the flow in there in the immediate?
Dan, can I say something?
As soon as I'm done. Is-
Yep.
You didn't, while we're waiting to come up with this permanent fix, can we change the flow through there?
so you come in and come up the hill first and
I
Does that
think
make
if
more
that-
sense?
come in straight.
Come in straight and then come around to the left and up the hill and out, so we're not crossing over each other. I know that doesn't do anything as far as what you're throwing the stuff into, but at least it's one of the 15 problems over there that we can fix right now. I don't know what we can say to you, or
We didn't talk about the flow of traffic when I was there.
Gotcha.
That wasn't one of the many things that we should.
Jason, what were you saying, Jason?
The only thing I was gonna say is, I know it's a looking forward thing, but if we had a separate garage that we had talked about years ago about just having space for the trucks, the trailer probably would have been done already, being that it could have been left in the garage.
Yes and no, because I've spoke with Guy several times about it, and Bob more times than I even care to be honest with you, because I've been after this 2 years, right? And anybody who's been paying attention knows.
No, I understand that, but at the same point, it takes
problem
longer
is,
to work
well,
on stuff when it's getting dripped on and everything else.
No, I understand, but the amount of work and hours that it's gonna take, but I agree in one aspect, don't get me wrong, Jason, but the real problem is the amount of hours it's gonna take to fix that trailer compared to the amount of hours that we have to keep maintaining our stuff that's breaking daily. There's just not enough hours in the day for one person to be able to dedicate his time to fixing that trailer, so he's doing it half hour at a time, 2 hours at a time, I don't know, whatever it is. But he sat right here 2 different occasions and told us that he estimates that it's a minimum of a 40-hour straight work week dedicated to nothing but that trailer to get it just where it needs to be, so it can leave the yard safely again. And then who knows when it breaks again. And I know we're kind of beating a dead horse here, but just, yeah, the garage would be nice, but it's not in the cards right now. And I don't think that actually would have solved the problem, because there's just not enough time in the day for one person to do it. So, I mean, I agree in some ways, Jason, but we gotta stay focused so we can actually fix a problem.
And that's what I was gonna say earlier, Dan, on your stuff is. We are sending stuff out right now again for like simple oil changes, simple jobs to be done, our maintenance on our other stuff. Or trying to bounce back and forth with this, the major stuff,
Right.
guys trying to get done, but.
Right, and it's just,
He's one guy, you guys are gonna have to start picking a choice, either we keep sending stuff out or we give some hands to help him out again.
Right. and
And this
I
is
will
a
tell.
good case in point, an example of this.
Yeah, and I believe personally, that guy is a qualified, he's a good wrench, and I think he knows how to manage his time properly too. I mean, I don't think he's just some schmuck who's sitting over there and trying to hide in the corner. He's getting stuff done.
Bill first and.
Yep, a couple of things. Is Guy putting in any overtime?
He's salary, so I'm not sure if he is or not, so.
I'm not positive.
He's not paid hourly, so.
I think maybe that's what we need to look at, because if we're limiting him because he's on salary, when he has a workload like he does, if he's going to put in the time, then maybe we should be looking at that. I think we should also be looking at, do we need to hire somebody to help him? Even if it's short term, because it's gonna cost us a lot more to send it out if we can find somebody that can help.
Well, and then
Um,
alternatively, sorry, can I add one thing, Philip?
Yeah.
Okay, with what we have right now, with not having a live for active, JR is gonna have to make 2 to 3 trips to Lebanon a week versus 1. So if one person is, you know what I mean? So it's either him or Guy, and
And I think
it's not easy to answer.
we have a short window of time that we can work on a trailer without it interrupting everything. Then that means we need to spend more time on it, and if we're gonna have trucks breaking down, then you're gonna have to put overtime. in. So I think maybe that's a question that we need to talk about. The other thing is, I've mentioned to a couple of people, I don't know if all of you have heard it or not, but, what about the conversation that I've had with you guys about forming a small committee to go over there and to work with JR and to work with the people to find out the best process for some of this stuff.
Yeah, so one of the things that's on our agenda, and we haven't talked to Sadie about it, quite honestly, it's coming up after this meeting. You know, increasing the amount of time we're meeting is on our agenda a little bit, and trying to get some of these things worked out. So, you know, I hate to push the buck, but it was, that is on my agenda to work on, Phil, and incorporate some more people and their expertise involved. So that's not gone on deaf ears. You know, this is crucial, but, you know, quite frankly, Scott was out a month ago, so.
And just another piece of that is, I understand that, having another garage would be helpful. But we can park those trucks outside. They don't have to stay in the shed. We can look at the weather and we can see what we have coming for weather.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
Right, but
it's
you can't. fix-
Which is true. We got 2 trucks parked outside right now, so guys can work on that trailer.
an issue with our trucks breaking down. Sorry, Jason, it was more of an issue with our trucks breaking down and keeping up with those with storms coming in than keeping trucks inside or not inside, but. So.
And I think on top of that, the issue is that nasty, disgusting, filthy, gross trash trailer
Yeah, they don't. have
being in the
inside.
shop in here.
Well, last I knew we had a steam cleaner.
We do have a steam cleaner, but it don't take the stink out. So, I mean, yeah, you can roll your eyes all you want, Philip, but you're not the one working in there, you know what I mean? And
There's give and take, and sometimes, unfortunately, we have to do things in life that we don't like to do. As they say,
right,
there's more than one way to skin a cat, it still has to be skunked.
yeah, right.
I find the same thing every day.
So here's the deal. Let me ask you this then. You could say you park the thing and dedicate a bay to it. Does that still give you more time in the day? It leads back to overtime, hiring another guy, farming stuff out. So it doesn't really matter where the truck is.
Yeah.
No.
Right?
Well, I think that's why, looking at the mechanics position, we are a big enough town that one mechanic can't do maintenance and repair.
Well, it took us 4 years to get a mechanic, so,
Yeah, 4 years behind to start with.
right,
Right. I hear what you're saying, Philip.
Dale, you had something?
Yeah, my truck didn't have any brakes on it, had a leaky oil seal.
Hair dryer.
Well, that was after he fixed all this other stuff. One brake shoe was completely unhooked and bent. It had an air can gone. So I was driving my truck with 1.5 brakes. And I did that for 2 snowstorms. So I said it was enough, and so the trailer was put on the back burner.
Yeah.
So stuff
That's
comes
just part of the
out
truck.
and the trailer isn't priority.
And when Guy comes in later, because he's scheduled to come in tonight. And one of the things I have full intentions in finding out is how far into the process we are and estimated time of how much longer he's gonna have to mess with the thing, right? But
Keep in mind, that's just stopgap. That's just getting us to where we can operate
Right.
safely. It's not the solution to the transfer station, so.
I have
question. This trailer that we're working on, is this the one that we just bought?
No,
No,
So what's wrong with the one that we just bought?
that's the one we're using right now,
That's up there.
throwing trash into.
yeah, that's the one that's over there that we're throwing trash
We
into.
bought a live floor without a top on it.
Correct,
Mhm.
because we
Right.
had a top on another trailer, we are gonna transfer to that was the original plan. We have a top on another trailer.
All of the things that I bitched about for the last year, Wes. You're right.
Which has been cut off, it's just
Yeah.
waiting to be put on that trailer.
Right, so then we're spending,
So
so then the mechanic goes over and takes his time to cut the top off. Now the mechanic's gonna have to go over and take his time to put the top on the thing. And then we gotta rework the rear doors on the thing.
Right.
And we gotta do the repair that it needs to even go over the road in general. Right? Plus we need to fix this, plus we got all the town trucks falling apart. And then at the end of the day, we're getting ready to rebuild the transfer station and get rid of these pieces of,
And keep
Right.
it- and
So
keep
how does that
the
make
transfer
sense?
station operating at all at the same time,
Right.
so
why did we buy that trailer?
that's a discussion that's been and gone this west, so.
yeah.
I'm just,
So,
I actually will go with Steven and say I'm not gonna go back
I
to
would
that.
like to be involved in that transfer station thing somehow, some way. Cause I think I got a lot of things that can be. That I can help with, a lot more than just changing things around, there's other things that can be done that could save money.
I'm about it.
So a thought for the select board to consider. I think 15 minutes ago, I heard someone suggest briefly. A committee to look at just the transfer station,
mhm.
and I'm thinking. Short to medium term solutions, not the long term. Thing that you've already got, eyes on. I think I've been hearing in the last few minutes that if you had one of you guys, one of the select board, one of these gentlemen. And the other resource in town that Sadie mentioned that I don't know the person has expertise in this area. You've got the beginnings of a pretty solid committee. If you could actually, just like you had a committee. To study Depot Street and the properties, right? Why don't you consider a committee of 3, 4, 5 people? To focus on just the transfer station, and that committee should include one of you guys. That might. Start to pull all these discussions together.
I would agree.
I'm not opposed to it. I don't know if I'm 100% on board with it, but I'm not opposed to it. I think over the last 2 years, we've had about 50 discussions, it seems like anyway, on the transfer station.
Right.
I've made endless phone calls and endless Google searches and talked with all of these people here, and it seems the general consensus always come back to a pretty basic solution. And it's to do the same thing that every town around us for 300 miles is doing, unless they got a landfill instead of a transfer station, and they're using roll-off container. But the problem, the problem is the money to do it.
And the conversion cost to do
Right.
it.
I understand that, yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, I'm not, I guess, opposed to it, but I
So
don't know
again,
if I
you
would
know
jump
where
in.
you're going long term, but you've got some immediate problems you want to face. Fix what you can short and medium term. And all those discussions you just mentioned, I suspect the problem is lack of focus. They're scattered.
Yep.
They're happening in all different forms. It hasn't been focused. If the select board could create a committee and empower it to bring all that under focus, you might get somewhere.
Or we look into for now, just a compactor to push into the trailers that we have for a part-time fix.
Well, let this committee we just described, consider that. Maybe that could be their first recommendation. I don't know.
So we will discuss that tonight and get something going on that. So
One way or the other, yeah.
we need to make some short term.
I think if nothing else at this
All right,
point,
use the restroom?
yes, go ahead. I think at this point, if nothing else, we've got a select board and administrator that understands and agrees that there's an issue there that needs to be taken care of. So I feel like we just made leaps and bounds already. So maybe we end the conversation on a positive with the fact that we all are working cohesively to get to the bottom of a problem. So at least feel good about that.
Any other topics anybody wants to bring up? Go ahead, Hugh.
So this is gonna open up a can of worms, and I know it is, but I'm gonna piggyback on that transfer because another day was lost on that whole trailer. because of voting.
Yep,
We are gonna be in serious trouble one of these days when we're doing voting in the location that we're doing it. Voting day tied up that whole shop over there because we can't let those fire trucks and stuff sit outside. Luckily, it was warm enough. And we had snow. And everything wasn't frozen up and we didn't have an ice storm. Ice storm would have changed some things with that.
Whole lot of lucky right there, isn't it?
It's to the point where this time of year, maybe the schools are, unless somebody comes up with another alternative, but maybe open some ears up. Schools are working on next year's calendars. I think it's time to approach the school and move this. They can build it into their calendars.
I think the school calendar will be cemented for next year. We're looking into it.
Well, it's worth the question of it anyways. If it's not this year, then now it's time to open it for the next year.
well, I mean, we used to do it in the schools, I mean.
Because
so-
this year you saw it, you know,
Next year.
what do you want done? Either that or the highway's not gonna set the code anymore. And it's gonna be the whole entourage of the mediator, select board and voting panel committee, because if you end up with look at what happened at the nighttime of this year,
We'll have,
6 inches plus inches of snow on the road.
No,
People
right.
plowing around.
Yeah, I just want to review the rules on where we can do it and can't do it, Hugh, and I think it's a good idea. I think we've been doing it at the fire station. It's, you know,
For next year with the primary,
excuse me?
if we have 2 elections next year with the primary. Then, you know, whatever, January, February, whenever they decide, along with the March, so.
Oh, because I'll tell you what, we get a building fire, one of those happen, roads getting shut down.
so I will tell you, that's the thing that I've said a couple times is, you know, you wouldn't want to have your structure on fire during the voting, and it's just a really lucky, whole lot of luck, whole lot of what ifs. So, but again, I'm with Stephen and I think we need to check and see what our specific guidelines are before we just start throwing stuff out there. But that is one thing that I've been a proponent. We've got to do something different.
We really have quite a bit of space that could handle it in towns.
Yeah. Yep,
Well, that's the thing, let's see what we actually need for the actual required square footage, stuff the voting
right.
requires.
Yeah.
But it's,
And can you work on some of what the rules are? Since you're the, can you work on what some of the rules are, since you are the
Well, let us know like square footage and
The person in
access.
charge of it
and
officially?
egress. Yeah.
For sure.
Which, by the way, I guess if I can real quick, say welcome to Ann. She is our new full-time town clerk, and nice to have you here.
exactly. Anybody else have anything? Go ahead, Corinne.
On a slightly more positive note, the Grafton County Executive Committee and the commissioners have approved $2 million in ARPA funds. That we are going to be trying to get out as soon as possible. There's $1 million set aside for municipalities, and we have until April 1st to apply for those. After April 1st. Then we're gonna open it up. There will be $500,000 set aside for small businesses and $500,000 for nonprofits.
Okay, what's the $1 million?
The $1 million, so towns can apply for grants up to $50,000.
To do what? What kinds of things?
It's pretty open.
Oh,
Transfer station repair,
Yeah, and yeah, it's basically just
is that what you were talking about?
Let's keep.
Corinne stole my fire, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Let's good on that.
Yeah, so this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier, Ned.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's good and it's bad. It's good because it's here, but it's bad because I thought it was in addition to what we were talking about earlier, so. But awesome. No, it is a positive.
Yeah,
Um,
so the way that'll work, there will be applications online and the commissioners will be reaching out to towns individually, but
So April 1st is gonna be quick.
yeah.
When are the applications gonna be online?
I'm hoping to hear that they're going to release the applications this week, and I will be in touch with you immediately
Okay.
when I hear.
And Ned as well.
Yeah.
And as well, yeah,
sure.
I'll let you all know, and then, the commissioners will do the initial. Decision-making about who grants will go to, and then the executive committee will have the final say over all of that, but it's kind of a first come, first served basis. They recognize that towns like Canaan are in need, so I think that we should be in good shape.
Jump on it. Okay. So
Thank
it's
you.
50,000 per town,
Yes,
okay, potentially.
potentially, and then I believe it's like 1 to 20,000 available for small businesses and nonprofits.
And was there a third category too after that for
It's a small business, and then the third is the nonprofits.
nonprofits?
Yeah.
So would that include the community center project? No,
No.
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 So, quick update on the community center project, just to give an overview where we're at. We have a webinar that the group is attending on Thursday morning to walk us through the application process and the requirements for the application. We've all had steady homework assignments. And there's not a lot of, we've all been doing our tasks, but we haven't really got back together and had a lot of forward movement since the last time I spoke with you guys. But we will be attending that webinar, and then we've changed our meeting from Wednesday to Friday morning, so we could get together after the webinar, so we can all discuss it and figure out where we go forward from there.
Great. Bill?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with a quick one. Are we gonna be continuing going forward doing a budget versus actual review?
Yeah, we're gonna start doing that on the first selectman meeting of each month, starting in April.
The next one is kind of a touchy subject, I think, or will be, road maintenance. I'm getting more concerned and more concerned by what I'm seeing. Especially election day, when our highway crew was gone by 2 o'clock, gone home for the day. And then we're calling them back in to tear down election booths. With significant amount of snow on the roads. It's getting to be a little, I keep trying to hold my mouth, trying to hold back. But it's not getting better. I don't know if we've changed a policy of how we're doing our snow plowing for the winter time. I don't even know where to stop, but potholes in this town. On our asphalt roads, we're gonna lose our roads if we don't start filling these potholes. And it's not just one spot, it's every road with asphalt on these roads. You patch a pothole when it's this big, not when it's this big. It takes 10 times longer and it costs 10 times as much. So. I don't know, I'm out on these roads plowing all the time. As a professional and as a taxpayer in this town, who's looking out for myself and the people that my customers and people in this town. Snow plowing is ridiculous, in my opinion.
Well, Bob's here.
Bob, you want to speak to that?
I guess the question is there been a change in our policy?
No.
You guys are the ones that create policy.
So
Well, it's been going on for years.
I think, you know, one of the things I mentioned at the planning board was we have a lot of new staff, right? So I'm not saying that it's an okay and you get a pass, but part of, I think, what we need to keep in mind is we got people that are coming in here, and I don't think it's appropriate to ask any of them, from Ned to Ann to Bob to Monica to anyone, to just start right where the old person left off and use their system. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. And again, I'm not saying that's just a free pass to just let things go and if you see it that it's been let go, I'm not saying that. But I do think that one of the things we have to keep in mind as a community is we've got an incredible amount of new people here who are picking up, whether it's a good position or a position that was done well or not, right? So there's a learning curve that comes with it. And that's where I see it specifically. And I don't agree or disagree with all of it. I don't agree with how everybody's doing their stuff. But I'm trying to stay open-minded and see that there's a learning curve. And maybe going forward to next year, we take that and we'll say, okay, this did or didn't work. This worked better than that. And we try to adjust things as we go, is where I hope that for me as a board member, that's why I'm trying not to micromanage things too much as a whole.
Well said.
Thank you.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
I
with that said, Bob's here, so if you want to ask him the question, I'm sure he can answer.
There's something on that.
Yeah.
I understand that there's new people. That's why I've waited as long as I have. But
Right,
we also have a highway crew
yeah,
that has tons of experience.
right.
And to dismiss that is dangerous.
well, do you approve that we've dismissed it, Phil? I mean,
Yeah, what are you talking about dismissing?
Well, saying that there's a,
I
I
mean,
don't like to say-
two of the road crew have been here for a good portion of the meeting, so it's not,
I'm
I
not,
mean,
what I'm just saying is, take what, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't speak up like. And so. I think that it's important that their input is part of the conversation. And
I can see
the
that.
other, one of the other things that I've noticed, is. And I'm trying to be mindful of road postings and things like that, but it makes it really hard when you see a town truck go by that's way overloaded. Riding on the shoulders of our paved roads. And then being told, we can't be running on these roads. So. Just so you guys have information, it's happening.
Right, you know, as a business owner. I look at it like this, I am more than happy and daily. Ask my guys what their opinions are, I mean, they're skilled tradesmen as well, but at the end of the day, I call the shots. And if it's wrong, I gotta eat it. If it's not, I usually don't say anything and just go along, right? So I understand what you're saying, but at the end of the day, you can't let your crew run the department.
No, I.
So, and as far as the trucks running over the roads, I mean, it's 6 1/2 dozen the other, Philip. You know, we sit here and we talk about how bad the roads are and that they're full of potholes and all of that. But then you talk about that it bothers you, which I get it, you make your living off your truck. So I try to be open-minded and understand what you're saying. So would it be different if they weren't overloaded?
Yeah,
You'd feel different about them traveling if they weren't overloaded,
absolutely.
yeah? So then we'll make more trips on it,
Then
You're
overtime.
not having them.
right? So
So
I
I
look
was watching the overtime.
So, right, and that's one of the things I was gonna say, so I don't know how things were done 3 years ago, but I know for the 2 years that I've been on the board, it is a constant thumb on top of the budget. On top of what is now Bob's position about overtime. To the point where, quite frankly, to me, I don't care for it a lot. Coming from a guy who was raised by somebody that works on this town crew. I know for a fact that a lot of the years that I was growing up, he weren't home all winter long. Period, hard stop, he was gone.
I have a grandfather that has 60 years.
Right, you get it. So to have to come down on these guys and take their overtime away, a lot of the old schoolers. They got this job because that's how they made their money, was in the winter. So to try to figure out how you take 6 guys and you maintain all of these roads and you do it without giving anybody overtime. I think really, in my opinion, leads to that learning curve that we're trying to go through. And is it perfect? Probably not, but I would hope that we'll see where we went right or wrong and we can fine tune it a little bit next year. And look, it's been months, but it's also only been one winter. So as a select board representative, I take that in consideration. Maybe yes, Bob has worked here months. And I'm just gonna speak candidly, he stepped into the biggest shit show in town. And I know that for a fact from being on the CIP committee. So to get where we are now and to even make it through this winter, I'm fairly impressed. And it might not be perfect, but as the board member in town, or one of the board members in town, I will tell you that I've spoken with them and I am trying to pay attention to it. And I don't know how you juggle it all and do it right when you can't give anybody any overtime. And if you got a solution for that, then I'm up for talking to you.
What is it, $20,000 in the budget line for overtime?
I don't know.
That's not much.
It's not much.
It's about that.
And $20,000 doesn't take long to eat up.
I have,
Not 6 guys.
Right?
I gotta ask you.
Ask me.
So. Here we're talking about the budget. We're worried about overtime with the town guys. I know we've had a little discrepancy with the fast water budget. So I guess my question is. Do we have the $350,000 to $450,000 built in the budget again this year for all these town warrant articles that we've been doing? Cause if we do, then why are we worried about the budget? Cause the money's there.
The money's there for the warrant articles, but that's different. That comes
So,
from,
okay, so
different
there,
spot.
thank you,
yeah,
thank you, I wanted that answer. So what we are doing,
glad to make you happy, Wes.
so what we're doing now is.
Yeah.
Is we are rolling that money right into the budget. So you can manipulate the people. So they'll vote for it because it's not costing them money. However, it is because you got it in the budget of $300,000, $400,000, $500,000.
I know,
Yeah.
I think that what Wesley was saying and what you understood was different. So what Wesley is saying, because we talked about this on voting day, is that at the end of the year, any funds that are in the undesignated fund balance
Yes.
roll into warrant articles. So he is implying that the budget is padded because of there's unreserved funds at the end of the year. So you were saying there's funds in there for those warrant articles. That is correct, because
Right.
those are built into the budget. So I think you're both saying two different things here.
Yeah,
I just
And
want to clarify.
You're right.
And Wes, frankly, we haven't always been able to fund all the warrant articles that way.
I went back through the last 3
We had
years.
to, we had to put the fire department on, a taxed warrant article to, because we didn't have enough, and it was 2 years ago, I believe, so.
I went through this year and last year's budget, and I believe even the year before that. And it's been anywhere from $350,000 to $450,000 that we've had left over after all the expenses.
So I think
I get we need a little bit, but to me, if we're $450,000 under budget, we probably don't need to have $450,000 extra in the budget. And then we're saying we don't have enough money to do all this stuff, but at the end of the year, we always find money to put in the warrant article. I guess I
So
don't
that-
understand.
So that buys you 1 year, Wes, and it buys you 1 year, because if you use it all up. It's gone, and then you have to raise that 400,000 from then on in taxes every year, and your taxes go up that $400,000.
You're already doing it every year in the budget. You're doing it because you're passing it through the budget. Whether you want to look at it that way or not.
1 year though, it's 1
No,
year.
yeah, 1 year.
If you use it
But
all
you've done it
year,
the last 8 years.
right, we've done it for longer than that, and to stay ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
How would Wes purchase a new fire truck? How, because the way we're doing it, we're saving it a little bit at a time.
All right,
But you,
From unreserved, if I may finish. From unreserved fund balance at the end of the year, that extra he's talking about. So it's no new taxes. If you take that away, it's new taxes every year until you pay for that truck or that fire truck. Or you have a bond that's every year.
right.
I get that, okay?
And
But this question I've asked multiple times, multiple years, hold on. And I was always told that if that's not what you were doing. You just come out and said, you guys are banking money for the warrant.
no, that's not what I said. So let me clarify what I thought you were asking me. What I thought you were asking me is, are the warrant articles that got passed this year coming out of our unassigned fund balance? And my answer to it is yes. And then you spun the question and said that I'm answering it, that's what we always do. two different things here, Wes.
Steven just said the last 3 years, how are you?
I'm
gonna get
talking
money
about
if
this
you don't-
year, right now. The warrant articles that were passed are coming out of
So
an
we-
unassigned fund balance.
Okay. so
That's the
we-
answer to the question that I thought was being asked of me.
We were
No more.
$451,000 under budget this year.
Well, and we also, you have to consider not just the budget, but our revenue budget. So if we have unexpected revenues such as, when we had pandemic funding, at the beginning of the pandemic, our vehicle registrations went sky high. We had a huge increase in current use tax income last year.
Yeah.
So those things are.
That we
part
don't
of that too.
estimate, we didn't know that was coming in.
Conservative on what we estimate for what's coming in, because whatever comes in and what we need to spend, the difference is what people pay in their taxes. We don't want to overestimate those revenues. So a lot of that was additional funding that we did not.
How much of that was additional funding?
The current use alone went from around 18 or 20,000 to 250.
It's well over 200.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess I paid some.
right. So I appreciate your question, Wes. I do,
I
because
didn't know it.
Yeah.
I just know that the last, and I feel as a taxpayer, and I think that everybody else should as a taxpayer. Whether the stuff gets passed or it don't get passed, it shouldn't be buried in the budget. It should be out so everybody can vote on it the way that it should be voted on.
I don't think that it's buried in the budget. From sitting on the budget committee for a year and a half, the capital improvement committee for 2 years, and the select board for 2 years, I'm looking right at you as a taxpaying resident, and I'm telling you, I don't believe it's buried in the budget. I understand what you're saying.
Other than maybe this $250,000, I have no idea, because I wouldn't even know where to look to find that.
Right, I'm with you. Well, you look right here,
But
and we just answered you. Yeah,
I just don't see how we have so much leftover money, it doesn't make sense to me.
Tom,
And then we worry about not having enough money to pay anything. It doesn't, it just doesn't make sense.
I hope this is a less complicated question. I know that the previous board had looked at the school street issue for some time and then agreed to postpone it until the new board was constituted. I know tonight is the first night. I'm just curious as whether you've had an opportunity to sort of think through. It's been sitting out there for several months, and I'm just wondering if you have a time frame of when you're.
to
what the
change it to one
status
way,
is.
to change it to one way.
Yes,
We haven't, I mean, I don't think, and I either have an opinion either way, strong opinion either way, whether it's one way all the time or not. The people, the residents on the street, to my knowledge,
Only one responded.
only one responded. I've talked to Ryan, he doesn't have a problem with it, other than, the way it is right now, it's not really legal, because it's not a one-way street all the time, so it's nothing really,
yeah, I mean.
except for signage.
It
They
seemed
can't-
like one person responded and
We
the
can-
response was kind of,
Oh, they said one way.
oh, they were in
Yeah,
support of it.
if one way.
Okay, so one person responded and said one way, nobody else responded. The school obviously believes that one way. I think probably most of the parents would support one way. And it seems like it makes more sense to either have it one way or two way all the time.
Correct.
Having the school hours. I don't know whether it's legal or not, but it's certainly confusing, so.
I mean, it's really no difference in the flashing lights that on Route 4. I mean, the speed limit's 30, except for when it's flashing. Do we just take the lights down and go 30?
Where, by the high school, you mean?
anywhere. He's basically saying.
No, you
anywhere
can have a
there's-
school zone with an adjusted speed zone during school hours.
Yeah,
Ryan says you can't have a one-way street, only partial time, so.
temporary, yeah.
But isn't it been that way since forever?
And that was my argument as well, I don't know who's talking.
There's a difference between a visual symbol like a flashing yellow light. And a sign at maybe both ends, but the one end I know, where Route 4 and School Street come together.
I believe there is a sign at both ends, isn't there, with times?
I don't know, but it's not nearly the visual signal that a flashing light.
The problem is that the police cannot enforce a temporary one-way street. If it's full-time, they could enforce it. It's not enforceable if somebody goes the wrong way, even during school hours.
I mean, I'm.
It's a big issue with us.
And there have been several, yes.
I mean,
Wait,
I don't know.
let me just make sure with the lawyers that we have the proper noticing and hearing and whatnot for that, because I'm
So
concerned.
we
that-
can vote on move forward of trying to make it one way.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm
The
just saying.
proper dating and everything,
So
so
go ahead.
Bob's gonna have to order sign the proper signage and everything,
Yeah.
put it in place also. and make it-
So-
I think we just have to scrape off the times that it's not legal.
You gotta have it. Sign.
I'll straight.
They're not gonna meet the recommendations anyways, so.
Sadie needs to revise her burn.
oh, okay, so I will move, my motion is that we decide to make it one way and move forward with the process to do that.
And I am in agreement. I would second Sadie's motion based on that it's okay with the town council and all of that for us to do this and. I would second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It may be worth reach out to the state too, since both of their roads are on each end of that.
We'll let Ryan do that.
Mark,
I would like to publicly thank Danny Collins and Dave McAllister for supporting the article for the firemen's for the trailer. It didn't pass, but I want to thank them for their support publicly.
You're welcome and thank you guys for what you do. It's, you guys, you raise a tremendous amount of money and a lot of effort that goes into what you guys do. And, yeah, welcome. Thanks.
And I will add a comment that, if you're still interested in the trailer, that you attend the CIP meetings, because there's a process to move something into the capital plan, and so I would suggest that you come to those and get that added in.
Thanks. Absolutely.
So I just have a quick question about meetings or notice. For instance, the website has, all committees have a certain number of meetings and they're listed, so you know what day, when they are. But now I'm hearing that the CIP meeting is going to start early in April, and then the budget meeting, are they meeting or not? They may be meeting on the 30th. And you have to have some days to notify the public when you do your meeting.
they do. I don't know if it's been decided by the budget committee, if they actually, they were sending out an email to the budget committee members to see if they could have a meeting next week to reorganize their board. The CIP has not met yet to start that process and set up a list of meeting dates, so.
If I could speak to how CIP committee operates, it's not as regular a function as planning board or budget committee, whatever. So we have found in the past that we sometimes needed more or fewer meetings in any given season. What we've done for the last 4 or 5 years that I've been there, so we've made sure to put out public notice at least 2 weeks before a meeting is held, as to time and place and so on. And Sal will attest to that. I mean, he attended a citizen last year and he found out through regular media, not because we told him or anything. So we might find that, other years we didn't start till August. I'm sorry, let me back up. August was usually the first meetings. This year, we hope to have our first meeting in April. We will publish public notice at least 2 weeks before. When we have a meeting in April, we might decide we want to meet again, that we need to meet again a few weeks later. We'll publish another public notice. It isn't as regular a process for us as to say we're gonna meet on the second Tuesday of the month. It's not that kind of thing. So depending on what's going on, we may need more or fewer meetings. But we do provide public notice.
So is it posted on the website?
We put it on the website. We put it on the town calendar on the website. We ask the town administrator to publish it in the weekly newsletter. And we put, as required, a notice on the board at the town office. Those are the methods that the state prescribes for notification.
Yeah, the legal is 48 hours, correct?
24 hours.
24.
So legal requirements are that we post it 24 hours.
I tried for 2 weeks.
But right, yeah, I will tell you, Claude's pretty proficient and which is appreciated, but a lot of the stuff is actually out before that.
Anything else for tonight? Need a motion to go into non-public?
Okay.
Okay, so moved.
Okay. I make a motion to go into non-public.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the discussion. I do appreciate it. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Wes.
Nice to meet you. Can I stay in the public for a few minutes?
Yeah. Good luck to go over.
That's the garage door.
It wouldn't be.
Okay, better.
Yeah, that's the thing that we can do that. So anyway, it's the same thing with.